Welcome back to the Bad Blood Podcast, everybody. Here with myself and the main man, Jack Dugdale. Jack, how are you, my man?
How you doing? I'm good. Are you?
I'm good. Jack's just come back on because we said we'll get him back on after his first fight for King of the Ring. But Jack's also got some great news as well that he's going to tell you. But Jack, how's things? How's the after feelings of your very first fight? How's it?
Yeah, buzzing, mate. Yeah, just a proper buzz. Obviously, got the result I wanted, and everything's just sort of blown up from there, and onwards and upwards now, I guess.
Because obviously it's a massive change for you because, like you were hitting upon on the last podcast, the big differences and the addiction, shall we say, just mentality, your way of thinking, your thought process, all that's changed, and you've switched. Is this the life that can you just, you'll not go back now? It's all forward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, after the win, obviously I was there with a load of my mates and that, and I went out that night, got on the beer and stuff, and I woke up the next morning like hugging my toilet, throwing up and stuff, and I thought, nah, this is not for me. So I had my first like drink in 7 months, and then obviously I've not touched it since, and I don't plan on doing now. Maybe it's an after night of the fight kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's as far as it'll go. I'm completely put off that lifestyle now.
Yeah,
Even the junk food, I was like looking forward to getting on that, and after a couple of shitty meals, I'm straight back on the healthy eating. So
your transition's been incredible, mate. Obviously, seeing your social media posts and from before and then now, it really is a massive transition. How much has Seamus been of like a trendsetter? How much has it been? How does it make you feel that you've got somebody like Seamus with you?
yeah, Seamus has been brilliant. I mean, obviously, I'm it's probably mentioned him a lot today, but yeah, just in terms of setting an example, having that positive energy. I've really enjoyed getting to grips with like the new, obviously the new gym's about to open, but we've been doing private sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had me down, learning all the coaching side of it and helping with the kids and everything as well. I've really learned a lot from the guy, and I'm sure we'll go into the fight and talk about the fight, but his game plan is what won me that fight as well. So massive props to Seamus.
See, because I think there's a method in his madness why he's getting you to do like stuff in the gym with the kids and that, because it's constantly on your brain, and if you're trying to develop them, you're developing yourself, and you're going to go and search when you're back in the house. You're going to look up things and, right, how can I perfect this for the kids? Right, so that, do you get what I mean? It's a knock-on effect. So there will be a method behind his madness. How was it leading up to fight week?
Fight week, I was quite like fairly apprehensive and nervous. But then on the day was just a really weird feeling. I felt like really, really flat. And even backstage, I envisioned the moment 100 times in my mind of how I was going to feel. And I was going to be pacing up and down with palpitations and all excited and adrenaline going in. And I couldn't get going. I really could not get going backstage. In fact, obviously, one of my cornermen, Corey Harrison, he turned up a bit later than the rest of the team because he had his daughter that morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him saying, he's like, he had this whole, because he knows what I'm like. I've admitted on the last podcast, I'm an anxious overthinker anyway. And Corey was saying he had this whole speech prepared in his head of when he was going to get there because to calm me down and get me like, and he said he just turned up and I was like, hey, Corey, all right, mate? Like I was sat, yeah, and it was weird. If anything, I was struggling to get going.
Mm-hmm.
Then once I got in the ring, it was just all a bit of a blur, really. I kind of let the adrenaline and that come out then, you know.
How when you first got to the location of the fight, what, like, I know you've just touched upon the nerves there, but how much of a different feeling is it? Like, because you've said you've done grappling, or is it a bit of jiu-jitsu in the past?
I've done a few jiu-jitsu tournaments, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I started training when I was like 14. And those sort of grappling tournaments, there's a very, very small crowd. It's more of an open mat. You roll in with this guy, you roll in with that guy. It's not the same at all. There's not a big crowd like sort of wanting to see blood and guts. Do you know what I mean? It's a different.
It's very.
But what was crazy as well is obviously for my debut fight, it was in my hometown and I'd sold like 55 tickets, so it was like all my mates there and that all like. You know, and it was pretty crazy. I got to the venue nice and early to weigh in and that. And then I was like sort of just just socialising really, because rather than just sitting backstage, I was just meeting and greeting everyone and like having photos with my mates and stuff. And yeah, it was just such a good buzz.
That normality probably led to how you probably couldn't get going. You were maybe too relaxed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, some fighters don't do that many tickets on their first fight either. Do you know what I mean? So it's a lot of pressure.
Definitely. Going into the fight itself, if you wanted to talk about, like, I was going to talk about a bit of a game plan and what Seamus come up with. To be honest, when I got matched up with Matty Bunyan, he was undefeated. I was going to say he was 5-0, but I think he had a draw in there. I think he was 4 wins and a draw.
Right.
And he had like a good following online and stuff. And I remember he wasn't my original opponent, but his opponent had pulled out. So they put me in with him. And I had a couple of people warning me. Like I had a couple of other fighters, one voice messaging me trying to be. He seemed sincere, but at the same time, it kind of pissed me off because he was saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't be matched with this guy in your first fight. This guy's a bit of an animal, and then me and Seamus were around at mine watching the fights, and I'm being too honest here, but I almost felt like pulling or asking him to swap my opponents. I thought they've overmatched me. It's not fair. And Seamus just said, "Jack, calm down." He said, "Let's study this footage." He said, he's a skilled boxer. He looks technically good going forward. He said, but what happens when he goes backwards? He said, his feet square up. He doesn't know what he's doing defensively. He said, and Seamus said, he said, we don't throw a punch until we feel his back touch the ropes or in the corner. He said, just bull into the corner and swing on him. And it's basically what we did. I saw a comment on the fight the other day on YouTube, and someone said, prime example of how aggression can beat skill. And I can box. I can 100%. But as far as my boxing skill, I'd say I showed like 30% of it. But it worked. I mean, it was very awkward. I'm 5'8", 5'9". The guy was 6'3", and it was really, really awkward matchup for me and awkward for him as well. So I got as low as I could, kept my head moving off the centre line, and just kind of bulldozed him into the corner. And obviously, I didn't get the knockout, but I got two knockdowns, 1 8 count, 1 9 count. So I was as near as damn it to finishing it.
Honestly, Seamus's depth of knowledge, game plan, and just his overall experience, calming you down, getting you to study the footage, all within that short space of time, just shows experience and screams experience. And it's good that you can adapt to stuff like that on the whim. Do you know what I mean? Because that gives, if you're training for a certain person and it gets cancelled within the third, you've got to change an opponent 4 weeks out. That just shows that you've got the mentality, the strength to actually adjust and adapt to anything that's thrown at you. So I've always said that's a great trait, because all the great boxers and great fighters are all good at adapting to styles. That's what makes them so great, their adaptability. Yeah. So you've got some big news as well. Would you like to drop it?
What I was just going to say is that I found that sparring in the gym, he's the body type I've had loads of trouble with as well. Anyone my sort of height, I'm not had any problems with, but the really tall, long range guys. So it was like a bit of a nightmare matchup for me. But shout out to Bunge. Me and him have become good mates. We're chatting away on WhatsApp now, and we're going to train together as well. He's going to come over to our gym. I'm going to go over to his gym. Great kid, really good kid. Sorry, go on, what were you saying?
That's the best thing about boxing. That's the best thing about combat sports, and I think that's what separates it from other sports. That you can be literally punching the very shit out of each other, and you become brothers. Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward. Do you know what I mean?
Different level of respect.
100%. It's almost like you're getting a brother in there. It's when you go to war and you leave it out, you leave everything in there. Yeah, you brotherhood to me. Like I say, you've got some big news. It just, in my opinion, it's a big jump, but
yeah, big jump
I
indeed.
believe you're very, very capable of it. Would you like to tell her?
Yeah, so after the fight, I think partly because of the guy's record and that I pulled off the upset, and I suppose because of the people I've got around me, I one thing I wasn't expecting is I got 3 or 4. I think it was actually 4 in the end. Promoters, all of a sudden, they were adding me on Facebook. They're dropping me messages. Well done on your fight. And then next minute, I had a few offers to pick from. And I won't go into the other promotions or anything, but yeah, I ended up going with Stefan at Bad to the Bone on a fight and management deal, which is amazing for me because this is the level of fights that I was watching. You know, on the last podcast, I was talking about Jacob and talking about being sat there.
Yeah.
When I was telling him I can do that, and he was saying, "I don't think you can, mate." And I'm doing it.
It's weird, isn't it? It's weird how things happen, but you've got to have that vision and you've got to have that that goal and target, and that you have to have that. So how's training? Obviously, we know the difference between boxing and bare knuckle boxing. Are you actually doing the the gloved, or are you going full bare knuckle?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that's the route I've always wanted to go down, dude.
Right.
I feel like my style complements that, and I don't understand this. For example, this guy, I'm not going to bother giving him any clout because that's what he's after. But this guy who was calling me out the other day to fight on King of the Ring, and I had to explain to him that I couldn't do it because I'm contracted with Bad to the Bone. But I did tell him to get in touch with Stefan and fight me bare knuckle. Oh no, I don't do bare knuckle, mate. I'm thinking, what's the big drama? Every scrap we've ever had is bare knuckle. You don't go on the car park with someone. Just let me get my gloves on, pal. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I think it's the purest form of combat in a sense, apart from if you were to do like bare knuckle MMA. But as far as boxing, I love it. I think it's you get away with a lot less. You know, the amount of shots I'm throwing in sparring, 3, 4, 5 punch combos, and 2 or 3 of them at the elbow, and it doesn't matter, does it? But with the gloves on, you've got to really pick your shots, and I think it's very skillful. It's not this brutish gladiator type sport that people market it as. I think it's very, very pure and skillful.
Are you going to stick at the same weight, or are you going to go up, or are you coming down?
Well, I was at 85. I've told Stefan I can be between 80 and 85. I've weighed myself this morning. I'm like 81, 82. So
wow.
I could. It's just because I'm pure. I'm working and I'm sweating every day. I'm not restricting calories or anything like that. I'm just putting in the work. So I think moving forward, I probably could get into the 70s. I think I've just got that quite a big bone structure, and I think guys around my weight tend to be tall. I mean, Bunge in particular was really tall. I'm not expecting every opponent to be 6'3", but I know that there's a lot of lads at like 85 who are well over 6 foot.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I wouldn't. I'd rather try and come down and be as big as I can for the weight class rather than being undersized 85er.
Yeah, I've had to do that with a fighter before. Like, he was competing in the super middleweight, but his just bone structure was just not of that ilk. Because obviously at super middle, he was fighting people who were coming down from light heavy and stuff. Do you know what I mean? And it just wasn't working, so I had to drop him a couple of weight divisions. That's just what happens. I'm sure Seamus and the team will be pretty. They'll know your limitations once you start the training for it and all that. Are you sticking with the same? Is it just going to be the same core team?
Yeah. So what's buzzing about this as well is, first of all, I was added onto this card, which is November 11th in Stoke, and then Corey is on it now. He's fighting for the English title. He actually won a British title the other week.
I was going to hit upon that. Yeah.
So he's now fighting for the Bad to the Bone English title on the same show. And we've also got Daz Simpson. I don't know if you know Daz.
I think I've heard of Daz.
Mate, Daz is just an animal. Daz is just one hard man. But he had a couple of fights. I think he's 2-0 with 2 knockouts. One
Right.
glove, one KB. But he's had about 4 years off. Now he came to watch me at King of the Ring, and he got the bug back, and he was like, "I'm getting in." And he's straight back in the gym. He contacted Stefan. He's got on the card as well. Stefan was at his last fight actually. So now we've got 3 of us going down as a team anyway. You know, we'll all corner each other. We'll all work. Honestly, it's such a buzz. Half of Burnley will be down there. Let me tell you.
See, I buzz off stuff like that because you've just inspired a former fighter to come back. Surely
Yeah, I wouldn't say I go as far as to say I inspired him. I just think it's just being a bit around the sport and watching it and knowing how capable he is. I'm in there doing rounds with that lad now, and the guy's a beast. You know what I mean? And as is Corey, I think I honestly believe we've got a chance of going down and turning the other 3 guys over. I really believe that.
I'll be looking forward to that. I'll look forward to seeing that because there's got to be surely some form of pay-per-view. Has to be for Battle of the Bone.
Yeah, it's on pay-per-view, mate. I'm not sure of the details yet or anything, but yeah, you'll definitely be able to watch it, Lee.
Right. Do you know what? We should get a podcast where there's you, Seamus, and Corey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Daz. Yeah, that's what I mean, and Daz. Do you know what I mean? So, if we can get that arranged, and we've got the new studio as well.
Me and Seamus are definitely planning a trip up there. Yeah.
We've got
the podcast we could potentially do from the gym. If we just get the gym, just close the gym for an hour and all get together, and we could all be in the same room there for you.
That'll be class. That would be mint because, like I said, it's just going to be pumping them out. Maybe do 1 or 2 like normal videos during the week just from home and stuff like that. But then we'll definitely we're in the studio once a month. That's for sure. So I'm pretty sure.
That's buzzing news. Is that for you, mate? It really is.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, mate. Did you watch the boxing at the weekend?
I didn't know. No, I won't go as far as to say a hater, but I'm not a Joshua fan. And to be honest with you, I don't watch a lot of boxing. I'm an MMA guy. As much as I love boxing, a bit controversial, but I found it a bit boring, to be honest. I absolutely love doing it, but watching it at times, I'm like, nah, it's not doing it for me.
Doesn't tickle the feathers. So is it UFC 29? Is it 292? It is. When's that?
Yeah, that's a decent card. So that's going to be like early hours Sunday morning for us.
So is it this Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'll definitely have to check that out. But yeah, if we'll get chatting behind the scenes, and then we'll try and arrange for you, Seamus, Daz, you know what I mean, and Corey.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But do you want to thank any of your sponsors, Jack, before we leave?
I do, yeah. I've got one on now. I've got Rejuvenate Sports Therapy there, which is my physio. She's been amazing. I've got I'm like just turning 31, but I've got the back of a 61-year-old, and she's like proper sorted me out throughout. You know, she's there anytime to help me out. I want to thank KO Kitchen, my meal prep sponsor, and I've actually got a meeting I'm going to say on Saturday, which is tomorrow. I've got a meeting tomorrow to potentially get a supplement company on board as well, which will be excellent. The sponsors I'm looking for, I'm not looking for anyone to give me any cash. I'm looking for services.
Yeah.
You know, your physios, your meal preps, your supplement companies. These are something who can save me some money and offer me something. And in return, I can offer them a platform as well.
Yeah, so, I get that, mate. It's because it's always a help when you know for a fact you've got stuff covered. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's just so beneficial. It really is. And I'm pretty sure with the gym's contacts forever growing, I don't doubt that you'll never not find that sponsorship. Do you know what I mean? But
I've no opponent lined up yet for November 11th. Everyone seems to be matched apart from me at the minute, so I'm waiting for the news.
It'll come soon, mate. It'll come soon. You and Seamus just do what you do best. Get your head down, get training, and once you've got that opponent, then you can start tweaking things and start putting a game plan to it. Do you know what I mean?
That's the one. That's the
100%. 100%. But Jack, honestly, thanks very much for giving us your time. I really appreciate it, mate.
I appreciate you as well, Lee. Yeah, and like I say, let's get that podcast organised.
100%, mate. Will do. I'll get you off screen.
Yeah, good to speak to you, mate.
No worries, man. I'll speak to you soon, mate. Dada.
Cheers, Bob. Right.